Hello students. So in this video today I'm going to discuss with you all is the formation of the pressure belts. Okay, how the pressure belts are going to the pressure belts are formed, all those things, the reasons behind the formation of pressure belts, all those things we are going to discuss here in this video. Now pressure belts, broadly the pressure belts has been categorized into two types. One is the pressure belts formed due to the temperature, okay, and difference in temperature, and another one the pressure belts which has been formed due to the dynamic reasons. Okay, now the reason behind the temperature or the pressure belts formed to the temperature is the insulation, okay, the heat which we receive from the sun, and the reason behind the dynamic pressure belts is the rotation. Okay, now basically the pressure belts are only of two types. There is the high pressure belts, okay, and the low pressure belts. Now there are different pressure belts which are present on the earth's surface globally, so that we are going to discuss. So on the basis of the high and low pressure belts, four different pressure belts are present, or the pressure systems are formed on the earth surface. Okay, so first we are going to discuss is the formation of equatorial low pressure belt, okay, which comes under the category of temperate pressure belt or the temperature pressure belt. Another category is also there under this under another pressure system is also there under this category, that the polar high pressure belt, okay, which also comes under the temperature pressure belts. Okay, now let us see the formation of pressure system. Yes, so students, so the equatorial areas, this is the equator and this is your North Pole and the South Pole respectively. Okay, so as we all know that the equatorial areas receives the direct rays of the sun, isn't it? As we have learned in the previous video. And the polar areas, is it? They receives the slanting rays or the oblique rays of the sun. And we also know the fact that the areas receiving the direct rays of the sun will always result in high temperature, and the area which receiving the slanting or the oblique rays will have low temperature. Okay, and because of the low temperature, okay, here the pressure will be high, and here because of the high temperature the pressure will be low, isn't it? Which we have learned in the previous video, the inverse relation between the pressure and the temperature. Okay, now the reason behind that also we have studied. Let us have a short recapitulation here in this video also. Like the area which receives the low insulation, isn't it, the molecules of the air which is present in this area, okay, they are densely compact with each other, very closely packed with each other, which makes the air heavy in this region. Now, the air which is present in the equatorial areas, the high temperature areas, the molecules are present in an expanded form. Okay, so it becomes light. So whenever there is the expanded air, lighter air, it will start rising upward, and the rising upward air will always result in low pressure. And comparing in the higher the low pressure areas, so low temperature areas, there is a descending air, so the descending air will always result in high pressure. Okay, so because of this reason the equatorial areas is having a low pressure, and the north pole areas and the south pole areas, they have the high pressure respectively. Okay, so because of the insulation, the temperature, the equatorial and the polar high pressure belts are formed. Okay students, now let us understand the pressure dynamic category, okay, due to the rotational movement of the earth. So here the tropical high pressure belt falls under this, and next is your subpolar low pressure belt. Okay, and one thing I forgot to mention students, that is the the latitudinal location of those pressure belts. Now equatorial low pressure belt, okay, it falls under the the latitude of 0 to 5 degree north and south latitude. Polar high pressure belt falls under the latitude of north 90 degree north and south. Okay, Tropical high pressure belt lies between 30 to 35 degree north and south latitude, and the subpolar low pressure belt falls under the lies between 60 to 65 degree north and south latitude. Okay, so right above the equatorial low pressure belt is your tropical high pressure belt, and in between the tropical high pressure belt and polar high pressure belt lies the subpolar low pressure belt, that is 60 to 65 degree north and south latitude. Okay, students, so let us understand the formation of tropical high pressure belt. So let me explain you with the with the help of a longitudinal view of the earth. So here supposingly the equatorial low pressure belt 5 degree north to 5 degree south, and here is the 30 to 35 degree south, that is the tropical high pressure, and here also 30 to 35 degree north, tropical high pressure. Okay, so as we have learned, the equatorial low pressure belt, due to the high amount of temperature here, the air becomes expand and becomes light, and it will start rising upward. Okay, so in the equatorial areas we have a rising air which results in the low pressure, isn't it? Now here what happens, students, is whenever there is a rising air in the upward, okay, now already the air masses is also present in that particular place, so it is not a vacuum, isn't it? The atmosphere is present in that areas also. So the rising upward air also needs some space, isn't it, in order to fill in. Now what does it do is, also due to the rotational movement of the earth also, as well as due to the upward movement, okay, of the air, the force of the upward movement also will push or will displace the air masses which are present in that area. Okay, so this air masses will be displaced under the rotation of the earth, the Coriolis effect, isn't it? It will displace to the surrounding areas or to the surrounding latitude, and when it reaches the latitude of 30 to 35 degree north and south latitude, those air masses will start descending in this particular areas, okay, in the latitude of 30 to 35 degree north and south latitude. Okay, so it will descend. So whenever there is an descending air, there is always a formation of high pressure system, isn't it? So this is formed. Now this latitude has been formed because of the deflection of the air masses, or the displacement of the air masses, due to the Coriolis force and due to the upward movement of the air. So here results in the high pressure, and equator we know there is a low pressure region. Understood? So in this way the tropical high pressure belt has been formed. And students, the different names has also been given to those areas, like the equatorial is also known as doldrums, and this tropical high pressure belt is also termed as horse latitude also. Okay, now why it has been given those names is because in this area there is the practically absence of horizontal air. Okay, means horizontal air is present, but in a very less an amount. More amount of vertical movement of the air is present. So because of this, okay, this area is a zone of calm belt, okay, because of the absence of horizontal air, or the horizontal movement of the air. Okay, so in the ancient times it was difficult for the the ships to sail in this zone. Now let us understand the formation of the subpolar low pressure belt. So this is your tropical high pressure, and this is your polar high pressure. So in between this lies the subpolar low pressure belt. Okay, now one thing it is there, students, we all know that the wind, isn't it, always blow from high pressure to low pressure, which we have learned in the previous video also. Like the rivers always blow from higher altitude to the lower altitude, similarly the winds always blow from high pressure areas to low pressure areas. Okay, so from the tropical high pressure areas, the winds will start blowing towards the subpolar region. Okay, in this latitude the still winds will blow, and also the winds will also blow, okay, will also come from the polar high pressure region also. So the one thing it is there, students, again, the winds which comes from both the areas, they will collide in the subpolar region. So the winds which are coming from tropical high pressure, they are warm winds, and the winds which are coming from the polar high pressure, they are the cold winds. Okay, now, when these warm winds and cold winds will collide with each other, now this is also because of the the movement of these winds is also one of the factor, is where the Coriolis force also, the rotation movement also, they will lead to the formation of the front in between these two winds. Okay, so the warm air being lighter, it will always rise upward. Okay, so whenever there is a rising air, low pressure is formed in these areas. The cold air will descend, we have learned, isn't it? But in this case, in this latitude, what happens is the cold air which are coming from the polar areas. Okay, now since the space in the polar areas is very small compared to the other areas, other the space of the other pressure systems, so the wind which are coming from the polar areas, because of the less space, it will expand in these areas. So when it expand, it will eventually mix with the warm air which is coming from the tropical high pressure belt, and they will mix with each other and lead to the formation of a rising air. Okay, so both the winds in these areas which are colliding with each other, it will lead to the upward movement of the air. As a result, it will lead to the formation of, as a consequent, the subpolar low pressure belt is formed. Okay, students. Okay, students, so these are the different the factors, or the formation of the low pressure or the high pressure belts globally. Now we are going to discuss the another topic, that is the shifting of the pressure belts. Okay, now those pressure belts are not again fixed or stationary. They also shift towards the north and the south. Okay, under the movement, apparent movement of the sun. Now I hope you people remember the apparent movement of the sun, isn't it? So now let us understand with the help of a small diagram. Now in the equator, we know there is a formation of low pressure belt, isn't it? Now the reason behind the formation is also the direct rays of the sun, isn't it? So the direct rays of the sun will lead to the formation of low pressure. Now this is the Tropic of Cancer. Now the apparent movement of the sun means the movement of the the sun towards the north and towards the south. So the sun slowly start moving towards the Tropic of Cancer. So it will not directly jump, isn't it? So it will pass by the latitude and finally reach the like the Tropic of Cancer. So the low pressure which was forming in the equator, now it will form just above the equator where the direct rays of the sun is falling. Okay, now again the sun will move towards the north and it will reach the Tropic of Cancer. So that means the latitude which was experiencing the low pressure earlier, now the low pressure will formed over the Tropic of Cancer, isn't it? So this shifting of low pressure, isn't it, it has occurred due to the shifting of the sun towards the Tropic of Cancer. Understood? So in a similar manner, even the other high pressure, low pressure belts which has formed, it will also shift towards the north, more north. That does not mean that the polar high pressure which is there in already in the poles, okay, it will leave the earth's surface and form somewhere in the atmosphere. No. What happens over here is the area under the polar high pressure belt will squeeze in, or it will become much more smaller. Okay, now again the sun is not fixed in the Tropic of Cancer, isn't it? The sun will again start shifting towards the south. Okay, now gradually when it starts shifting towards the south, again the low pressure formation, or the area where the low pressure was forming, that will also shift towards the south with the movement of the sun, isn't it? So this phenomena is known as the shifting of the pressure belt. Okay, so along with this, the sun, along with the movement of the sun, all the pressure belt will also shift towards the south. Not only the low like the equatorial low pressure belt, but the other pressure belt will also shift towards the south. Okay, so this phenomena is known as the shifting of pressure belt.